So we can defer to that or not. All right, everyone. Let me just make sure we're good. And yeah. Today we're going to talk about old books, old dead guys, and old ideas. And I'll make it fun somehow or another.
But when the show finally turned on for the first time to get the bugs worked out, it's finally in a position where we could turn it on. I had tears in my eyes. There was some problems, there were some bugs that needed to be worked out, little knick-knack, little stuff. But it didn't matter. I seen it. They came to life. For 25 years they've been sitting in a crate, and I just breathed the first breath of life into them. And yet again, there's no words to describe it. I sat here and I cried like a child because my dream had just came true. But when the show finally turned...
Whoops. I gotta figure that macro out. Hello, everyone. Let me just double check everything. Yeah, I still have to get chat to work. That's the one thing, you guys. But we'll get there eventually. I thought about changing the schedule from Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday to Monday, Wednesday, Friday. But there's so many things that go on, and there's so many important things that happen. So I don't want to neglect anyone. Welcome to CONSCION. This is a new religion that I want help from you and anyone interested in nurturing, that has the basic founding principle that human consciousness is a miracle worth sanctifying. And all downstream from that, we have respect for others, human dignity, respect for human consciousness, not transgressing upon each other, and all of those ideas. But it's a religion because you have to believe that it's a miracle, and you have to believe, an airplane's a miracle, sure. You have to believe that it's worth sanctifying too, which means that we're not going to go around abusing people, right? Like, we're not going to take advantage of other people's consciousness. Now, old books and old dead dudes and prophets. I'm a little bit shy about this idea of pushing for a religion. I'm not sure if this is going to set me up to be a target or not. But we have to live with it, right? Like, if you say, I don't believe in your God, and it's somebody that's in a mutually exclusive religion, you have to contend with what that means for that particular person, right? Some religions, if you don't believe in their God, they're ambivalent to you. They're just like, okay, like, go on about your life. They don't even want to tell you about their God because they don't need to proselytize, right? But many other religions create the moral pretense for people to be violent, to steal your property, to take your land, in essence, the prioritization of all life, like a tribal prioritization. Our people come first, but it's on steroids and supercharged because they have a holy zealotry and fervor. If they believe that they're God sent and God is their favorite, like we're God's favorite, everyone's, like bussing over us or whatever, that is dynamite, considering that we live in a world with nuclear weapons, considering how easy it is to create a dirty bomb or do this or that disruptive thing, right? Our moral, the moral infrastructure that we've used 2,000 years ago or 1,000 years ago, that religion as a vessel to help humanity grow and advance, it is showing up as an inadequate system to carry us forward, because ultimately they cannot resolve the detachment of what happens to me and what happens to you. If God loves me and if I die, I go to heaven, and God hates you and you go to hell when you die, I am now detached from the real world, in that whatever I do here, as long as I buy into being a godly person or something, right? Like if I really am convinced of that, there's all number of awful things that I could do, right? And so we have to be careful about how these elements of the ancient religions from thousands of years ago, right? Or 100 years ago, right? Some of them are only centuries old, but these elements, they may exist within them, and because of the way it works with being based on Holy Scripture and being based on prophets and the prophets' messages, there is no way that you could ever surgically cut it out, right? It's hard baked in there because it's in the holy text. And so what do you do then, right? Like, we have millions, billions of people on the planet that believe different religions, and the religion gives them, in essence, a meaning structure for how they can make sense of the world and then feel okay with what happens or doesn't happen to them. It's an important thing, right? Like, we need this in the world. Like, we need to help people feel that spiritual wellness and connection with the world to be able to function, right? Like, to not be a drug abuser or something. And here, cheers to that. So, spiritual wellness. And so I should be careful about, like, not throwing too many acorns at the legacy religions, but essentially that's what I am. I'm an annoying squirrel, and they can take a 50 caliber rifle, which is all their heretical followers, and they can send them out to murder me. There's that guy, Salman Rushdie or whatever, I think, who no longer speaks out about Islam publicly because there's been too many murder attempts made on his life because of his criticism of Islam as a religion, or I don't know if it's Muhammad or what, but in essence, somebody sent out a hit for this guy, and he said, for me to keep living, I have to no longer discuss this issue I think is really important. In fact, my life has been endangered by it. And that's, this is 2024, right? He's still living. I hope so, for goodness sake. But, Do we have Facebook? Hold on, y'all. I have to just check Facebook just for my own sanity. Facebook is so busted. I can't believe it. Everything else is going. All right. So old books. There's this the the thumbnail I created. Hold on, let's do this. And then I'm gonna get the window in here. Incognito. Okay. I hope everybody's Tuesday is going well. It's such a strange time we live in, but this is the what is it? Don't let the the fire hydrant of information you have access to overwhelm you. Especially during the stupid election season. It's not an accident if you're fatigued and worn out by everything. Like, they want you to be worn out so that you can't really adequately respond to things. And then it's like easier, what is it, like sheepdogging people, right? Like if you're tired, you're just going to let them prod you around. So, the Code of Hammurabi. I'm not quite sure where I left off, but I will trust that we get back to, let's go to Britannica, right? Old school. Whose books and why? So I don't really care as much about the rules. But in essence, Babylonian times, and this is old, 21st century BC. Oh, so let's wrap our head around that. Negative 2100. So over 4,000 years ago in Babylon, in Mesopotamia, the god emperor said these are his rules, and they wrote it down in all kinds of things. There's all kinds of it's really cool, actually.
Every civilization needs writing.
Cease. So check this beauty out. Now look. If you don't follow these, kid, I'm going to have to cut your hands off. I don't know. It sucks, right? So that's the question of, and it struck me because I've been watching a lot of people talk about theology, and I watched some Islamic theists talk about Judaism and the Talmud or this or that, and it was interesting to hear them make the arguments and say like, well, your book says this and our book says that, and they break it down. And it's funny because in essence they're talking about like a meta strategy and meta gaming, and like, well, yeah, you're right, your prophet was here for that, but then the following prophet came and the chosen people were led astray from the path and lost God's favor. And like they have this whole narrative to the point where if you have two people that are religious and they're in a room together, they might argue with a very specific kind of language, like talking about like this is a can, right? And God is real or not real, or, this person was born of a virgin, or, so-and-so is a satanic sect, a sect of Satan, and has left the path of the prophet, or, like all of these insinuations of who's right or who's wrong. It's funny because spiritual people, they will speak in a very, because they're compelled, right? That's the thing of belief and faith, is I'm convinced of it. They'll say that, these things happened, and it's very convincing when they speak convincingly about it all. The question is, whose book to follow? And if I say, well, my book is, my book is older than yours, which means that my prophet was more right. The response to that is, well, yes, your book was right of the time, and then our prophet is the following. In essence, it has like a secessionist. There is a bit of usurpation, right? Like, we will now take, and that's what the title of this, right? Like, my prophet debunked your prophet. We'll take your message and we'll take your following, and I'm going to try to make a mixtape, which would be my new message from God, and then spread that message and word to others to try to make the world, more of a godly place, right? Or whatever it may be. There is some authority in having these older texts, right? Like I think it's a callous thing for younger people to say, oh, who cares about the Bible, and to think that there's nothing of value in the Old Testament and New Testament as a reference for anything, right? Like, it's an important text, but is it something years and years later, just like the, our good old thing right here? This freaking thing is 4,000 years old, and it, should we follow the rules from 4,000 years ago? I don't know, right? They were there for a reason, right? That's what people that's what people would say. So we can defer to that or not. But I think that is not realistic with the volunteerism that is, human choice. And ultimately, even people that think that they're religious and say, oh, I'm super religious, they are usually only following a fraction of the total set of rules, because some of it is completely unlivable. There are some people that are very committed, and for instance, they won't do mixed fibers or this or that. Like, they follow every single rule of the text, orthodox in that kind of a fashion. But even then it becomes kind of funny and strange. Like, the orthodoxy, in particular with Jewish orthodoxy, becomes, how do you game the system? So how do you, oh, I'm not even streaming on YouTube. Oh, bugger. Well, we'll go to YouTube later. That's really funny. How do you bridge 1,000-year-old texts with the challenges of modern living and all the complexities, in particular a global world? And that was something that these Islamic theists were saying, is like, oh yeah, Judaism as a religion helped to carry the Jewish people out of slavery, out of Egypt, to create a new land and find freedom. And it had to have it was all referenced within the Jewish people, and that diaspora, or I don't even know what the right word is, right? But in essence, because of the time it emerged, it could never think about somebody like an Aboriginal person in New Zealand, right? Why would Moses be talking about Aboriginal people, right? And also on the other counterpoint, why would God judge Aboriginal people for not knowing his message because they never got the tablets or whatever, right? Like, in essence, I keep saying in essence, I need to make like a counter and like peg myself, but just a moment. So the religion had to be tribal because the context demanded a tribal response. If they hadn't had that tribal connection, they may not have survived and they may not even exist any longer, right? Like that's the thing that I'm a bit bummed out about is the dominant religions now, which are mostly the Abrahamic religions, and then you have Buddhism and, you know, some of the Chinese, Eastern Asian kind of religions, and then all the peripheral ones. Just like all the species of animals that may no longer be on this planet as we know them, or may have changed, and in essence, like they're no longer expressed as they used to be. There are many religions now, I'm sure of, that, you know, are completely lost to history, just like particular cultural languages or things like that. You know, I talk about books a lot, and those were all written histories. Before that, they were oral histories passed down from generation to generation in a communal setting. And here, we'll go halfway. YouTube will get some of it. What a mess. So there's the question of how do we adjust these old books, but then also which old books do we follow? And with each new prophet, it's funny. So the case for Islam is, you know, Jesus was trying to save the world, and then I guess Islam made it, globalized it. It added that dimension of Sharia where the entire world could be incorporated into the religion. And so the case that these Islamic theists were making is, unlike Judaism or Christianity, I don't know how they cast Christianity. I guess Christianity, maybe they connected with Jesus, but they also connected with a new prophet, is the thing. So to only be Christian is to not be updated with the new prophet, is the argument, right? And that's the thing of like, well, yeah, your prophet's right, and bless your prophet, peace be upon him, and also peace be upon my prophet. And you build upon it. It makes me think of the Mormons, which is kind of a funny thing of Mormonism is a very American religion. It only came out in this last, you know, couple century, and I don't know, maybe I'm not doing them a kindness, but apparently this guy had glowing rocks, and he looked at the rocks under a hat, and the rocks told him the rules, and then he told someone else who wrote it down, right? Who the hell knows, right? And I guess that's the other thing is, like, of all the religions that have maybe been extinguished, maybe because I'm not as much of a violent religion, or I'm, you know, this or that, like my religion teaches kindness rather than taking from others, right? Maybe those people didn't survive a lot of situations. In a similar fashion, how many prophets, if we really believe that there is God or gods, how many messengers of God or gods have we ignored? And or how many have we sedated with lithium or whatever, right? Like, there's any number of things and ways of misunderstanding. My favorite girl in the world, let me take a drink one moment. If there's one girl I could shout out to in all of history, it would be Cassandra. and she was an oracle of Apollo. There's some hither and thither about what exactly happened, like if she scorned his affection or whatnot, but he decided to give her the gift of prescience, right? She could see what's happening before it happens. She's able to predict the future. But the curse of her gift is that no one will ever believe her. And so Cassandra lived her life telling of things that were happening, and people would doubt her, and they would scold her and, you know, mistreat her and this and that. And she bore that that divide of, I know something, I've heard a message, but people don't want to hear it or aren't ready to hear it. That's something that's worth thinking about, of pacing, where, and we shouldn't get too like haughty and like, oh, I'm so spiritually evolved, but if I'm a more spiritually developed person and there's other people around me that are like drooling on their plate and slapping themselves and, you know, doing all kinds of things, as much as I may wish better for them or wish otherwise, it's really not my place, right? Like, they have their own track, and they have their own path to find their own spiritual maturity, if they ever do, right? They may just never ever grow, and that's okay too, right? Like, that may be how it is. But it is a weird thing where if you are gifted with insight, or if you're particularly sensitive, you may pick up on things that other people have not put together yet. And it's very complicated then, because you have to decide if you speak about it or not, or how you may convey that information, which a lot of people, if they're not ready to hear it, they may hear it and then it's almost like a slappy reflex. Like, are you serious? Like, what are you saying, right? Like, if you speak it too early, people may be, they may tie you up and set you on fire. So, old books. I want to make it a little more chipper. I don't know. There's all kinds of fun prophets, but then there's also weird culty things. Like, I feel like let's do some things to look out for in prophets, right? Like, let's say if your prophet likes child brides, he may not be a good prophet. If your prophet wants to brand the women with a weird symbol, he may not be a good prophet. If your prophet makes everyone drink a bunch of cyanide-laced Kool-Aid after assassinating or murdering a U.S. government diplomat, he may not be a good prophet. So, you know, there's all these different things. Another strange thing is, even if people buy into the teachings of a prophet, it's prone to distortion, right? Like, Jesus, what is it? There's the red letter Christians, and in essence, red letter Christians have a text of the Bible that has specifically outlined with red print the direct attributions of teachings of Jesus, and so things that he's spoken himself. And I think that there's something important about connecting with the immediate primary source rather than connecting with these kinds of like secondary, tertiary apostles, right? Like, a lot of the later texts in the Bible are people writing about Christianity or Judaism or whatever, and it's no longer about any direct teaching. It's now just some guy who has, like Paul, who fell off a horse or hit his head, and all of a sudden he is now writing all these books, and he is now promoted as this special celebrated figure of the faith. The distortion is that there's too many chefs in the kitchen, right? Like there's too many people that are adding spice and seasoning. And then the other weird thing is, even with the Bible, there are a lot of texts that I think the Catholic Church very deliberately went around and collected and tried to destroy entirely. And so they were, apocryphal books of the Bible that they had, for whatever reason, here or there, decided that it was so dangerous that they had to actually go physically grab any printings of them and try to put them out, right? Like it's kind of disturbing to think of that. And I think of, what is it? I guess they don't trust that other people can interpret what is or isn't real. They, like if you were saying, well, look, the teachings are strong on their own. I don't care if there are alternative texts or apocryphal texts, because the true texts are what will stand the light. Like that will draw people. For them to go after the false texts, to me, indicates a lack of confidence in the strength of their true texts. Like there's some, or if it's not that our texts are strong enough to draw the worthy to the faith than the false texts, then maybe the belief for them is people are too dumb to even figure it out here or there. And so I can't even let them read the wrong ideas, because if they do, their mind will be so polluted that I can't take them back. So I don't know. A lot of these conversions to different religions are very convenient and kind of like identity based. You join an in-group, you're celebrated for converting, you change your life, and then they begin to ask things of you, and they ask for commitments. And slowly but surely you realize that you have submitted yourself to an organization. Like, is it true that the Baha'i faith, you can't leave the Baha'i religion? Can I leave the Baha'i faith? I mean, there's a lot of faiths that have excommunication. It's not that bad. It's sad, though, when people are called out to, like, if you don't do the thing and follow the steps, then we'll never talk to you again. Like, this girl's cool. Can you believe that she had to deal with all that? These are the people that went out to veterans' funerals and they held signs that say God hates Fs and blanks go to hell or whatever. And it's kind of, I don't know, Christians should own them because they're actually following the word, right? Like, they're like, look, And that's the thing of like, you give a believer the books and they start reading and they're like, whoa. And the scripture itself transforms a believer because it's that strong. And I guess that's why they have the clergy or whatever that may be, to help a person discern between, how to apply the teachings or the texts or whatnot. It still doesn't add up, though, of how do you choose, right? Like, which God do you choose? It's like that Great of Montreal song, but I won't play it. This brings us to then Pascal's wager. And what is it? Pascal was some sort of a mathematician or logician, and his idea is, look, it costs more if it turns out that the Christian God is real and I don't believe in him and I don't follow the steps, it costs more because I burn in eternal fire and damnation. It costs more to me than if, if I didn't believe than if I did believe, compared to if I did believe and follow and then the Christian God wasn't real. That costs less, right? Like, okay, then I won't get into heaven. The Christian God may not be real, but I followed the rules and it didn't really cost me a lot, compared to if I didn't follow the rules and the Christian God is real, instead of getting into heaven and getting all the heavenly splendor or whatever it may be, I go to hell forever. So Pascal says, in that case, I've decided I will believe in God and follow God. Yeah. Now, there's something wrong with this to me. There's something wrong with this, because this is not faith. This is like you have a dad or a girlfriend and she says, if you don't do the dishes, I'm going to whoop you when I get home. Okay, is that faith? Am I taking a belief leap here? No, I guess I'm what is it? The fear of God is in me, right? And you're compelling faith. You can't refuse it. Someone will maybe hang you if you don't say that if you don't say the words, they may kill you. And then so you convert and then they don't kill you. Now are you that faith? If you're compelled into that faith under threat of either eternal damnation or immediate physical harm or like persecution. And that's the thing that really bugs me, is like, if a lot of these people, and it's like Sharia law, right? They want to enforce Islam on the entire world. And we have to just be completely honest. Sharia law is not acceptable. Sharia law will never work. And as soon as Islam as a global diaspora accepts that Sharia law will never happen across the planet, it may happen in some countries. It may be a thing that's chosen by the people that live there, as long as people are allowed to exit or enter if they wish, right? Like if people are allowed to leave, if they're like, okay, I'm out, maybe that's okay. But Sharia law cannot function because it is oppressive. It prohibits women from proper speech and participation in the world. And just because of that, because it prohibits women from participating in the world as regular people, it's not going to work. Okay? Now, Christianity, I have an issue with them because they are an apocalypse death cult. They believe that, we can have a rapture, a second, third coming of Christ, whatever it is, in essence, the afterlife and the absolution of Christianity that lets people wash themselves of all their sins. That is a recipe for American Psycho-like behavior, where on the week I do awful things, and then I say, oh, Jesus, forgive me, and I do my repentance and things like that, and I'm okay. And it's disturbing to me that they believe confidently, as long as they don't kill themselves with suicide, it could still be thermonuclear war. The entire planet could light up like a candle, a candle tip, or what, a match tip, right? That could be our whole damn planet. They're still good because they'll still go to heaven. And these are the only people that we're electing for president in America. These are our politicians that have said openly and like very boldly and said, I put God first, then I put my country, or maybe God, my family, and then my country. What a man. What a charmer, right? I don't think that guy should be a freaking politician. So, that's me being a bit opinionated. But these old books and these old prophets, if we are to continue to follow what they say and teach, they will lead us to, I guess, wherever we have where we are right now, right? We can grade the status of the world right now. And I suggest it will continue to be a troublesome thing that will likely get worse to the point of the extinction of humanity. The extinction of humanity, the extinction of most life on Earth, the desolation of our planet as a habitable wasted because we followed old books and old dead men. Wasted. Abyss. Forever. It's not worth it. So, we can take great relief that there's so much opportunity to improve and to expand upon what they've offered us. But like I said earlier, with pacing, it's going to take time to get them off of that chair. Their little ivory towers that they've built for themselves. We have to help them understand that as long as they carry on in a tribalist fashion on the planet and prioritize in a violent and coercive way their needs over the needs of others, we have to make clear that that's just not an acceptable thing in our planet any longer. And maybe that means coercion. That's like a political, that's a kinetic dimension that I am not experienced to speak on. But right now, the tragedy that we are still having, feuds over gods and prophets and books, when there's so much opportunity to advance and nourish a verdant world, nourish a world that has promise for our children, and nourish a world that our children can grow up unharmed and able to explore the wonders of being a human and having a soul and having a heart. So, I hope you'll excuse my complete decompensation. All right. I still flicker, and as much as the hurricanes blow or things try to chop me down, I hold that we can be more than they grant us, and that we're not restricted by how things are or how things have been. We are given this opportunity to do with our lives whatever we want in our horizons. And that's a wonderful thing, despite any tragedy or loss or trouble. It's a wonderful thing that you may be able to listen to me. It's a wonderful thing that we're still carrying on, and I hope that you can carry on with courage too. Okay. Well, I thought I'd do a longer stream, but since I'm weeping over thermonuclear war, maybe it's time to wrap it. It seems like I need to maybe chill out a little bit, but it's a real deal. I don't know. It's so strange. We live with detachment from the perils, like. But my parents grew up with, the Cold War, where you'd hide under a desk during an air raid siren. Like, imagine if nukes are flying over from Russia. Hey everybody, hey kiddos, just get under your desk, okay? It's such a trouble, and I think it's such a wasted opportunity. And that's the thing that really makes me upset, is that it's not hard. We have enough space on the planet, I think. Maybe we need to adjust how we conduct things a little bit, right? And change our priorities, like rather than spending all of our money on missiles or explosives, we could try to do technology advancements on material sciences and waste recycling or this or that, right? Who knows? And it's sad to think that human ingenuity, so much of it has been spent on sharpening the spear and making it easier for us to kill each other. And that's the most important thing for so many people that are alive right now, is making sure I can kill other people easier and better. I think it's important that there's a defense, like you need to have a competency of defense. And I do believe if you don't know how to defend yourself, like if I'm walking around with like, I go to the ATM and I'm wagging my money around while I'm leaving the store and I get robbed, we have to understand I have, by being in that circumstance unprepared, I have contributed to that, right? Like, of course it's victim blaming, of course. But a victim can either be responsible for their error and responsible for their, growth from that mistake, or they can be a victim without responsibility and just keep on getting nailed. So take responsibility. You are a victim by some things, right? Like if somebody's trying to screw you, yeah, they're trying to screw you. Be aware of it. With that pep talk, I'm going to play a little ditty on our way out, and then I'm just going to chill. I'll be back on Thursday, or I'll try my best to. I'm fairly sure I can. And then we'll see about Saturday. If not Saturday, I'll be back Sunday. So let's do this. Well, here we go.
Beautiful cosmos. You are the center of your little world, and I am of mine. Now and again we meet for tea, we're two of a kind. This is our universe, cups for tea. We have a beautiful cosmos, you and me. We have a beautiful cosmos. What do we talk of whenever we meet? Nothing at all. You sit with a sandwich, I look at a roll. Sometimes I open my mouth, then shut it. We have a beautiful cosmos, you and me. We have a beautiful cosmos. You are the center of your little world, and I am of mine. Now and again we meet for tea, we're two of a kind. This is our universe, cups of tea. We have a beautiful cosmos, you and me. We have a beautiful cosmos. I bet you when you go home, you'll say, stupid bugger.
All right, everyone. Good week to you, and thanks for watching if you did.